The Denver courthouse loomed like a fortress of glass and steel, its sharp angles cutting into the pale autumn sky. Madeline Young stood at the top of the courthouse steps, clutching the divorce decree against her chest. Her knuckles were white, her breath shallow, and her legs trembled as if they no longer belonged to her. For 18 months, she had fought a war in that building, a war against a man who had once promised her forever. A war over every dollar, every memory, every shard of dignity he could strip from her. And now, it was over, or so the papers in her shaking hands claimed. But the ink that confirmed her freedom felt heavier than chains. Her chest rose and fell uneven as she whispered to herself, "It's done. It's finally done." Yet the voice in her head, his voice slithered through her resolve. "You think you've won, Maddie? You'll never be free of me. I know where you work. I know your hours. You'll never escape me." Her stomach knotted a hollow ache that refused to release her. For months, food had lost all meaning. Even coffee, once her lifeline through long shifts at the hospital, now turned her tongue bitter. A man brushed past her, the scent of cologne sharp in the cold air, and she flinched. Reflex. Always reflex now. Madeline closed her eyes, fighting dizziness, but the courthouse steps seemed to tilt beneath her. She staggered, clutching the iron railing. The world blurred into streaks of gray and silver. The divorce papers slipped from her grip, scattering like broken feathers onto the concrete. Her knees buckled. A cry rose in her throat, but never escaped. Instead, she fell into darkness, into silence, until she felt strong arms catch her before she hit the ground. She woke to a voice, low, steady, and carrying a strange authority. "Easy. You're safe." Her lashes fluttered, the courthouse dissolving into the sterile brightness of Denver General Hospital. The antiseptic smell, the beeping monitors, the echo of hurried footsteps, all too familiar. Except this time, she wasn't the nurse tending to others. She was the patient. "You collapsed from exhaustion and dehydration," the man explained. His features came into focus, sharp jawline, piercing eyes, dark hair brushed back with careless precision. He wore the plain blue scrubs of a hospital volunteer, but something about him was wrong. His presence was too commanding, his gaze too steady. "Who are you?" Madeline's voice cracked. "Patrick," he said, after the briefest pause. "Patrick Scott." The name meant nothing to her, yet it lingered in the air, with weight. He adjusted her IV line with practiced ease movements, confident, too confident for a volunteer. His touch was careful, not clinical, as if he wasn't just treating a body, but guarding a soul. Madeline's pulse quickened. "Why were you at the courthouse?" she asked. Patrick's eyes flickered a storm behind them before he replied smoothly, "Wrong place, right time." It was a lie, or at least, not the full truth. Nurses developed instincts, and hers screamed that Patrick was hiding something. By evening, she was discharged against her protests. "I can handle myself," Madeline muttered, pulling her coat tighter as she prepared to walk alone to her small apartment. But Patrick was there, leaning casually against the wall of the hospital lobby, as if waiting for her. His presence was unsettling, not because he frightened her, but because she couldn't decide whether he was protector or threat. "You shouldn't be alone tonight," he said simply. She bristled. "I don't need a babysitter." Patrick tilted his head. "No, you don't. But you need rest and protection." Her heart hammered at the word. Protection. "I've seen women come out of divorces like yours," he continued. "The harassment doesn't end just because the papers are signed." Her breath caught. "How do you know what kind of divorce I had?" Because I saw your face today, Patrick said. It's the same face I've seen on patients' families in this hospital. People who've been broken down by someone who promised to love them. His accuracy left her silent. For the first time in months, Madeline felt tears prick her eyes. Not because Patrick had touched her, but because he had seen her. Really seen her. Later that night, back in her apartment, she noticed something strange. The lock on her front door was scratched, as if someone had tried to force their way in. Inside, a stack of nursing textbooks was shifted a drawer half open, her refrigerator light blinking where food had gone missing. Her chest constricted. He's been here. She backed into the hallway shaking, and there he was again, Patrick emerging from the stairwell as though summoned by her fear. What's wrong? My ex. He's been inside. He still has a key. Patrick's expression hardened, a flash of fury in his eyes. Give me your key. She hesitated, but something in his voice, calm, commanding, compelled obedience. Within minutes, Patrick was inside her apartment checking corners, testing locks, moving furniture with swift efficiency. He worked like a man trained for crisis, not a casual volunteer. When he emerged, his shirt sleeves were rolled back, revealing hands that were both calloused and immaculate, like someone who belonged in two worlds at once. You're not safe here, he said, handing her a new set of keys. I changed the locks. Windows are secure. No one gets in without me knowing. Madeline stared breathless. Who are you? Patrick's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening with secrets. He opened his mouth to answer, and a sudden knock rattled the door. Both froze. On the other side came a voice she knew too well. Low, cold venom wrapped in silk. Madeline, her ex-husband, called his tone mocking. Did you really think a piece of paper could keep me away? Her blood turned to ice. Patrick moved between her and the door, his frame solid, immovable. His voice when he spoke was lethal calm. You're not welcome here. Madeline's breath caught. He had said you're not welcome, as if he already belonged. The silence that followed crackled with danger, and Madeline realized in that instant that her divorce was far from the end. It was only the beginning. The pounding on the door grew louder. Each knock reverberated through Madeline's small apartment, like a war drum. Her pulse quickened until it felt as though her heart would leap from her chest. Patrick didn't move from his stance between her and the intruder. He was calm, steady, his broad shoulders forming a wall of protection. But the set of his jaw told Madeline he was holding back something darker, an anger that could ignite at any moment. Open the door, Maddie, the voice taunted. We were husband and wife. That means something. You don't just erase me. Madeline's throat closed, memories flooding back the slammed doors. The endless interrogations, the way every act of kindness had turned into a weapon. She pressed her palms together to keep them from shaking. Patrick's voice cut through the haze, low and deliberate. He's not coming in. The door rattled again, harder this time, as though her ex might kick it down. Patrick reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a small black device, and held it against the wood. A green light blinked once. The sound of the lock reinforced itself, clicking deeper. Madeline blinked. What did you just do? Secured it, Patrick said, not turning to look at her. Stay behind me. Her confusion tangled with fear. Who carried around equipment like that? What kind of volunteer could reinforce locks with the flick of his hand? Silence fell on the other side of the door, broken only by a laugh. You can hide behind him tonight, Maddie, but you'll have to come out eventually. And when you do, I'll be waiting. Footsteps retreated, fading down the hallway. Madeline sagged against the wall, every nerve in her body trembling with release. The room smelled faintly of sawdust and disinfectant, the scents mixing oddly with her own fear. Patrick finally turned his eyes, scanning her face. Are you hurt? She shook her head. Words wouldn't come. Then listen to me carefully. He continued, his voice gentler now. He's testing your boundaries. If you show fear, he'll keep pushing. If you give in, he'll never stop. Her lips parted. And if I fight back, Patrick's mouth curved into a grim smile. Then he'll learn you're not alone anymore. The words hit her like a flare in the darkness. She wasn't alone. For the first time in months, maybe years, she felt the possibility of safety. And yet, she barely knew him. The following morning, Madeline forced herself through another shift at the hospital. The pediatric wing was her sanctuary, though exhaustion pulled at her bones. Children clung to her hands, their wide eyes seeking comfort. She gave smiles, soft words, the kind of warmth she hadn't been able to give herself. But every time she turned a corner, she half expected to see Patrick, and she did. He was there before her first coffee break, leaning against the counter with 2 cups in hand. You take yours with cinnamon, he said, matter-of-factly, placing one in front of her. Her brows knit. How would you know that I pay attention? The answer was simple, yet it unsettled her. Later, she found him in the playroom, cross-legged on the floor, with a little boy who refused his medication. Patrick spun a tale about a knight who feared nothing except a single drop of medicine that could make him stronger than dragons. The boy's laughter rang out as he swallowed the dose without protest. Madeline stood in the doorway, arms folded, heart betraying her with warmth. Patrick was too good at this, too natural. When their eyes met, his smile softened, and she felt herself step dangerously closer to a line she wasn't sure she was ready to cross. That evening, Madeline returned home to find her apartment door slightly ajar. Panic spiked. She froze in the hallway, every muscle screaming. Patrick, she whispered, fumbling for her phone. Before she could dial, he appeared at her side, silent, as if he'd been there all along. He pushed the door open, entering first. The living room was in disarray. Papers scattered, drawers overturned. On the coffee table, one object had been left deliberately, her wedding photo. The frame cracked, the glass splintered across her smiling face. Her breath hitched. Patrick lifted the photo, studying it with a cold intensity. He was here. Her knees weakened. What if he comes back? He already has, Patrick replied, his voice low. And he wanted you to know it. He crouched, picking up a slip of paper tucked beneath the photo. A note scrawled in familiar handwriting. You're mine, Maddie. Don't forget it. Madeline swayed, rage and terror colliding inside her. He won't stop. He'll ruin everything. Patrick's gaze burned into hers. Not if I stop him first. Her breath caught. Stop him. How? For the briefest moment, something dangerous flickered across Patrick's expression. The mask slipped. He wasn't just a volunteer, not just a good man with kind eyes. There was steel in him, a darkness forged by battles she couldn't begin to imagine. Patrick, she whispered, who are you really? He stood, sliding the note into his pocket. Someone who doesn't tolerate men like him. That's not an answer. You don't need an answer tonight. You need rest. But she couldn't rest. Not with questions clawing at her chest. Not with her past crawling through every shadow. And not with Patrick standing in her living room, his presence both a shield and a riddle. You can't just walk into my life, she said, her voice breaking. Fix my locks, fight my battles, and expect me not to wonder why. Patrick's expression softened, but his silence was deafening. Her frustration boiled over. Why me? Why here? Why now? For the first time, he looked away. His hand brushed the edge of the broken frame, lingering on her fractured smile. Because you remind me of someone I couldn't save. The admission hung in the air, like shattered glass. Madeline's chest tightened. Who? His eyes met hers again, storm-dark and raw. But before he could speak, her phone buzzed violently on the table. A message. She picked it up with trembling hands. The sender, unknown. The text, ask him about Sophia. Her blood froze. Sophia. The name seared itself into her thoughts. She looked up at Patrick, whose face had gone pale, his jaw tight. Patrick, she whispered, her voice shaking. Who is Sophia? For the first time since she had met him, he had no answer. The silence stretched thick and suffocating as Patrick's face hardened at the sound of that name. Sophia. The single word glowing across Madeline's phone screen felt like a crack splitting through the fragile trust she'd begun to place in him. Her hands trembled as she set the phone down on the table. Tell me, she whispered, her voice breaking. Who is Sophia? Patrick exhaled slowly, his shoulders tightening as if carrying the weight of something too heavy to bear. His eyes flicked to the shattered wedding photo still lying on the table, then back to her. She was... Everything he said, finally the words quiet, restrained. That's not an answer. Madeline shot back, her voice sharper now. Who sent this? And why are they telling me to ask you? Patrick's jaw clenched. Because they know it's my weakness. The admission sent a chill down her spine. She stepped closer, needing to see his eyes, needing to understand. What does she have to do with me with all of this? Before he could respond, her phone buzzed again. Another message. He won't tell you the truth. He never does. Her stomach dropped. She turned the screen toward him. Someone knows you. Someone knows me. And they're watching us. Patrick's eyes darkened, a storm barely contained. He reached out, taking the phone from her hand, his grip firm, but not cruel. This isn't random, he said. He's not acting alone. Your ex has help. Madeline's heart thudded painfully. You mean, this is bigger than just him? Patrick nodded once. He's pulling strings he doesn't even understand. And now you're caught in the middle. The rest of the evening stretched into uneasy quiet. Patrick insisted on staying until morning, though he made no attempt to invade her space. He sat in the armchair near the door, as still as a sentinel, while Madeline lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Sleep came only in fragments, fractured by images she couldn't control. Patrick's fierce eyes, her ex-husband's mocking smile, the mysterious word, Sophia. When dawn finally brushed pale light across her blinds, she pushed herself upright. Patrick was still there, half-shadowed, watching the door like a man waiting for an attack. Don't you ever sleep? She asked, her voice hoarse. Not when you're in danger. Something inside her cracked at his words, half gratitude, half terror. She wrapped her arms around herself. You can't keep doing this, Patrick. Protecting me without giving me answers. His gaze softened. He rose from the chair and crossed the room until he stood just a breath away. Sophia was my sister, he said finally. She died here in this city, in a hospital, not far from the one where you work, and I couldn't save her. The words landed like stones in water, rippling through Madeline's heart. I'm so sorry, she whispered. But sympathy wasn't enough. Questions surged. What does that have to do with me? Why my life? Why now? His eyes flickered with pain and something unspoken. Because losing her taught me what happens when you look away. I swore I would never do it again. That day at work, Madeline's mind was anything but focused. She moved through the ward, like a ghost plastering smiles onto her face, while inside, she was unraveling. Children reached for her families, asked her questions, yet her thoughts drifted back to the man who seemed to know every corner of her fears. During lunch, she slipped into the quiet staff lounge. The television buzzed with muted news, and then her breath caught, because there he was, Patrick. His photo flashed across the screen next to headlines about business mergers and corporate empires. Her sandwich fell forgotten onto the table. The caption beneath his image read, "Patrick Scott, CEO of Scott International Holdings." Her chest constricted. A CEO, a man worth billions, her protector. Her shadow was not simply a volunteer at all. Madeline, a colleague, asked, noticing her pale face. "You okay?" She forced a nod, muttered something about being tired, and fled the lounge. But her mind burned with betrayal. He had looked into her eyes, held her shaking hands, spoken of trust, and never once told her who he really was. That night she confronted him. "You lied," she said, her voice sharp as she stepped into the living room where he was waiting. Patrick's eyes narrowed slightly. About what? About everything. She pointed toward the television where she had paused the news earlier. His face stared back at them, polished, powerful. "You're not just some man who stumbled across me at the courthouse. You're him. The businessman. The billionaire." Patrick's jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. "I needed you to see me as a man first, not a headline. You manipulated me." Her chest heaved. "You let me think you were ordinary, when all along you've been living in a world I can't even touch." "It wasn't manipulation," he said firmly. "It was survival. You don't understand what people see when they look at me. They see money, power, advantage. No one sees me." Her throat ached. "And what about me? What do you see when you look at me?" For a long moment his expression softened, raw and unguarded. "I see the woman who made me feel human again." Her breath caught, but anger still clawed at her ribs. "Then why does everything around you feel like danger?" He didn't answer. The next evening, the hospital was chaos. Alarms blared through the pediatric wing staff rushing toward a room where a small boy struggled for breath. Madeline was in the thick of it, her training taking over her hands, steady despite the storm inside her. And then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw Patrick. He wasn't supposed to be there yet. He moved through the crowd, with authority, speaking to doctors, adjusting equipment, with knowledge no volunteer should possess. After the crisis passed and the child was stable, Madeline cornered him in a deserted hallway. "You knew exactly what to do," she said, her voice low, accusing. How Patrick's eyes met hers, and for once, he didn't hide. "Because I've been here before, night after night fighting for Sophia. I learned more about medicine in those years than I ever wanted to know." Her anger faltered, replaced by something softer, more dangerous. But before she could speak, her phone buzzed again. Another message. This time, a photo. It showed her standing at the nurse's station earlier that day, unaware, smiling faintly at a colleague. Across the image, words were scrawled in red digital ink. "Does he protect you, or does he own you?" Her hand trembled as she held the phone out to Patrick. "They're watching me, watching us." His face darkened, every muscle taut. "Then it's time I stop hiding." Madeline swallowed hard. Stop hiding. What Patrick's reply was a whisper, but it struck like thunder. "The truth about who killed Sophia." The word hung in the air like a blade killed. Madeline stared at Patrick, her pulse racing, her mouth dry. "What do you mean?" she whispered. His eyes were shadowed heavy with something he had carried for far too long. "Sophia didn't just die," he said finally. "She was pushed into the grave she never should have entered. Someone made sure of it." Her breath caught a sharp ache in her chest. "You think someone murdered her?" "I don't think." His voice was steady cold. "I know." The corridor seemed to close in on them, the fluorescent lights buzzing faintly above. Madeline felt the walls of her world shift once again. Everything with Patrick came in waves, safety one moment, danger the next. tenderness twisted with secrets. Who, she demanded. Patrick hesitated. That's the part I can't yet prove. But I know who benefited. And I've spent years unraveling the pieces. And now I'm part of it, she asked bitterly. You became part of it the moment your ex decided to use me as a weapon against you. Madeline stepped back, her shoulders hitting the wall. This is insane. I just wanted to end my marriage to rebuild my life quietly. And suddenly I'm drowning in a billionaire's grief and corporate conspiracies. He moved closer, his voice softer but urgent. You're not drowning. You're surviving. And that makes you stronger than anyone gives you credit for. Her eyes stung with tears, not from weakness, but from the cruel truth of it. For so long she had been forced to appear strong while inside she was breaking. But now she stood before a man who had built an empire on secrets, and the cracks in his armor were starting to show. Later that night, Madeline sat alone at her kitchen table staring at the words on her phone. Does he protect you, or does he own you? The photo burned in her mind. Whoever was sending these messages knew too much, saw too much. Her door was locked, her windows secure. Patrick had made sure of that. Yet the real invasion wasn't physical. It was psychological, crawling under her skin until she couldn't tell where her fear ended and her paranoia began. The buzz of her phone startled her again. A new message. Meet me tomorrow, noon. Riverside Cafe. Come alone, or the truth about Sophia dies with me. Her heart pounded. She reread the words over and over until they blurred into one chilling command: come alone. The next morning, Madeline dragged herself through her hospital shift. Her nerves frayed. She tried to focus on the children, on the routines that had once grounded her. But her hands trembled every time she charted a patient's notes. Patrick appeared in the doorway during her break, carrying coffee. His steady presence made her heart ache. She couldn't tell him about the message, not yet. The thought of his reaction terrified her. He handed her the cup. You've barely slept. Neither have you, she countered, forcing a smile. Their fingers brushed, and the contact sent a current rushing through her, a reminder of everything unsaid between them. Madeline, he said quietly, I know I've dragged you into something you never asked for, but I swear to you, I won't let him touch you again, or anyone. Her throat tightened. She wanted to believe him, desperately. But the message in her pocket throbbed like a secret between them, threatening to rip open what fragile trust they'd built. At noon, she slipped away. The Riverside Cafe was small, tucked beside the river's edge, its windows fogged from the steam of brewing espresso. She stepped inside, her palms damp with sweat, scanning the room. In the far corner, a man sat hunched over a newspaper. His suit was wrinkled, his hair thinning, his presence unremarkable. Yet when his eyes lifted to hers, they burned with recognition. You're Madeline, he said, his voice low. Sit. She obeyed, her knees unsteady. Who are you? Someone who used to work for Patrick's family, he said, folding the newspaper, back when Sophia was alive. Her breath caught. He leaned closer. You want the truth. Sophia's death wasn't an accident. It was covered up by people in Patrick's world, people with everything to lose if the truth surfaced. Her stomach churned. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to know what kind of man he really is, and because you're already in too deep. He slid an envelope across the table. Proof, but be careful. The last person who tried to expose this ended up buried in scandal and debt. Madeline's fingers trembled as she touched the envelope. But before she could open it, the man's eyes darted to the window. His face blanched. Patrick stood outside, his expression carved in stone, watching. Madeline's blood froze. The man bolted, shoving past her, disappearing through the back door. Madeline sat frozen, the envelope clutched in her hands. She looked up to see Patrick storm inside his eyes, locking onto hers. "What are you doing here?" His voice was low, dangerous. She swallowed hard. "He told me about Sophia." Patrick's gaze fell to the envelope, then back to her. "You shouldn't have come." Her voice broke. "Why not?" "Because I might finally see the truth." His silence was answer enough. That evening, the tension between them was unbearable. In her apartment, she held the envelope on her lap, the weight of it suffocating. Patrick paced the room, his hands clenched into fists. "You don't understand what you're holding. If that information is real, it doesn't just endanger me. It endangers you." Madeline's chest rose and fell, fury and fear colliding. "I'm already in danger. Don't you get it? Whoever's watching us, whoever's sending these messages, they're playing a game. And I'm the pawn because of you." His face twisted with anguish. "I never wanted this for you." "Then, tell me the truth," she cried. "What really happened to Sophia?" "What are you hiding from me?" Patrick stopped pacing. His eyes, usually controlled, blazed with something raw. He opened his mouth to speak, and then the lights in the apartment went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Madeline gasped, clutching the envelope. Patrick's voice cut through the silence, steady but urgent. "Stay close to me." From the hallway outside came a sound that turned her blood to ice. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. And then a voice muffled through the door, but unmistakable. "You should have stayed quiet, Madeline." The footsteps outside grew heavier, deliberate, echoing down the hallway like a countdown. Madeline clutched the envelope against her chest, her breath shallow, her heart hammering in her ears. Patrick moved toward the door, his entire body taut as if he had been waiting for this moment all along. In the dark, the only light came from the glow of the city outside her window, silver against his rigid silhouette. "Stay behind me," he whispered. Her throat tightened. "Patrick, who is it?" The footsteps stopped, silence, then a slow drag of metal against the doorframe like a knife teasing wood. Madeline's skin prickled. The voice came again, low and mocking. "Still hiding behind him, I see. Always letting someone else fight your battles." It was her ex-husband. Madeline's knees weakened, but Patrick's presence kept her upright. He reached for his pocket, pulling out something small. Metal glinted faintly in the dim light. It wasn't a weapon she recognized, but the air around him sharpened, dangerous. "You're trespassing." Patrick called, his voice calm, lethal. "Leave, or you won't like what happens next." A laugh cut through the door. "What will you do?" Patrick Scott. "Buy me off, or bury me like you buried Sophia's truth." Madeline's heart stopped. Her ex knew about Sophia. She gripped Patrick's arm, whispering fiercely. How does he know? Patrick's jaw locked, his voice lowering for her alone. Because someone fed him the story. Someone inside my family. Before she could respond, the hallway fell silent again. The footsteps retreated slowly, purposefully, until they faded completely. But the threat lingered like smoke. Patrick locked the door again, double-checking every latch. His hands were steady, but his eyes betrayed a fury barely contained. Madeline sat on the couch, clutching the unopened envelope. Her breath came fast, her mind spinning. He knows about Sophia. He knows about you. And he's not stopping until he destroys me. Patrick knelt in front of her, his gaze unflinching. Then we fight him, together. Her lips trembled. You keep saying that, but every time you open your mouth, more secrets spill out. Patrick, how can I fight with someone I don't fully trust? His eyes softened the steel, melting into vulnerability. Because I've never lied about the one thing that matters. And what's that? She demanded. That I would do anything to protect you. The confession cracked her. She wanted to lean into him to believe him, but the envelope felt like fire in her hands. Proof, truth, maybe even betrayal. Slowly, she slid her finger under the flap. Patrick's hand shot out, catching hers. Don't. Her breath caught. Why not? Because once you see what's inside, there's no going back. It will pull you deeper into a world I've spent years trying to keep separate from this one. Her voice broke. Patrick, I'm already in it. My life is already shattered. How much deeper could I possibly fall? He held her gaze, his hand still wrapped around hers. For a moment, the storm between them softened. His thumb brushed across her knuckles, a tender touch that contradicted the danger outside. And then slowly, he let go. Madeline opened the envelope. Inside were photographs. Grainy black and white images of hospital hallways, medical charts, signatures. One page in particular made her blood run cold. It was a death certificate. Sophia Scott. Cause of death: complications from treatment. But scrawled across the bottom in red ink were words that didn't belong there. Not an accident. Her hands shook as she flipped through more papers. Donations funneled into hospital departments, names of doctors, lists of board members. Patterns she didn't understand, but someone clearly wanted her to. She looked up, her eyes wide. This says someone tampered with her treatment. Patrick's face darkened, pain and rage colliding in his expression. Exactly. Who? She whispered. My own family. He said the words tasting like ash. They needed her gone, because she stood in the way of what they wanted. Her stomach twisted. Your family, he nodded slowly. Sophia discovered irregularities, money missing from the foundation, medical funds diverted. She was ready to expose it. And then suddenly, her treatment failed. Madeline's heart clenched, both for the girl she had never known and for the man kneeling before her, broken by grief. You think they silenced her? I don't just think, Patrick said. His voice was raw, unguarded. I know. I've been piecing it together ever since. But proving it, that's the battle. The weight of his words sank into her bones. He wasn't just protecting her from an abusive ex. He was protecting her from a storm, much bigger one, rooted in betrayal and blood. Later, when the night was quiet and the city outside her window glimmered faintly, Madeline sat beside him on the couch. The envelope lay open between them, its secrets spilling out like ghosts. She turned her face toward him, her voice barely audible. Why me, Patrick? Out of all the people in your world, why did you choose me? His eyes lingered on hers, vulnerable in a way she had never seen. Because when I look at you, I don't see strategy or gain. I see someone who knows pain, who knows loss, and still chooses to heal. You remind me of the kind of love I thought I'd never deserve. Tears blurred her vision. She didn't want to feel this. Not now, not when everything was falling apart. But her body betrayed her, leaning closer until her head rested against his shoulder. For the first time in months, she let herself breathe in someone else's strength. But peace never lasted. Her phone buzzed on the table, the sound slicing through the fragile silence. Madeline reached for it, her fingers trembling. Another message. This time, a video file. With dread curling in her chest, she pressed play. The footage was grainy but clear enough. Her ex-husband stood in a dimly lit office, shaking hands with a man Madeline didn't recognize. But Patrick did. His face went white. That's my uncle, he whispered. On the screen, the two men leaned close, their voices muffled but audible. She trusts him, her ex said with a smirk. And when the time comes, she'll lead us straight to what we need. Patrick's uncle replied coldly. Good, because she's the key to breaking him. Madeline froze. She was the key. The video replayed again and again in Madeline's mind, each word cutting deeper. She's the key to breaking him. Her ex-husband's smug face. Patrick's uncle's cold voice, both colliding into a revelation that left her trembling. Patrick had gone still, his fists clenched tight at his sides. The light from the screen cast his features in harsh relief, every line etched with fury and betrayal. Madeline shut the video, her breath ragged. They're using me. All this time. They've been using me to get to you. Patrick turned, his eyes burning. No. They're trying to get to me through you. There's a difference. Her chest tightened. Does it matter I'm still in the middle of something I never asked for? For a moment, silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken fears. Then Patrick knelt beside her, his voice raw. Madeline, listen to me. This isn't your fault. You're not a pawn. You're... He stopped, his throat working as though the words were too heavy. She shook her head. Don't say it. Not now. But the look in his eyes told her he already had long before tonight. The following morning, Madeline tried to bury herself in routine. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and coffee, the hum of machines and voices familiar. But even among the children's laughter and the nurses' chatter, she felt exposed, as though eyes were always on her. When she entered the break room, the television was tuned to a financial news network. Her stomach twisted as she saw Patrick's family name scrolling across the screen, Scott International under scrutiny, amid allegations of embezzlement. The anchor's words stabbed her, whispers of a cover-up involving the late Sophia. Scott are resurfacing, raising questions about who knew what and who profited. Gasps filled the room. A colleague murmured, "That family's always been ruthless." Madeline's hands trembled so hard she nearly dropped her coffee. She fled the room, her chest burning. In the corridor, Patrick was waiting. His face was unreadable, but his eyes, stormy and fierce, found hers instantly. "You saw it," he said. "They're dragging her name through the dirt." Madeline whispered, fury breaking through her fear. "Sophia deserves better than this." "That's why I can't stay silent anymore," Patrick said. "It's time I confront them." Her stomach nodded. "Confront your uncle?" He nodded. "And anyone else tied to this?" "But I can't do it alone." She stared at him, torn between fear and something she hated to admit, faith. "And what if it destroys you?" His jaw tightened. Then at least it won't destroy her memory. That night, Madeline found herself sitting in Patrick's car, the city lights rushing by in blurred streaks. She had told herself she wouldn't come, that she would stay far away from this firestorm. And yet here she was, riding into the lion's den. Patrick's family estate rose like a fortress on the edge of the city. Gated, cold, imposing. The kind of place that didn't welcome outsiders. When they entered, the air was heavy with silence. The grand hall lined with portraits that seemed to watch her every step. Patrick's uncle waited at the far end, seated in a high-backed chair, as though on a throne. His smile was thin, sharp. So, the older man drawled, "The prodigal nephew finally returns, and he brings company." His gaze slid over Madeline, dismissive and cutting. The nurse who's become such a distraction. Madeline stiffened, but Patrick stepped forward, shielding her from the insult. "She's not a distraction. She's the reason I remember what matters." The uncle chuckled, a sound like gravel. "Ah, romance. So quaint. But you forget, Patrick, this isn't about love. This is about legacy." Patrick's voice was steel. "Sophia's legacy. And I won't let you bury it." The uncle's eyes glinted. "Careful, boy. You speak as though you have proof." Madeline's hand tightened on the envelope in her bag. The documents burned against her side, a dangerous truth she wasn't sure she was ready to unleash. Patrick's uncle leaned forward, his voice a whisper of venom. You think you can fight me with scraps of paper? Don't be naive. Everything you love can be taken from you. Your company, your fortune, even her. His eyes flicked toward Madeline. Patrick's hand clenched into a fist, but Madeline placed her fingers gently over his, anchoring him. His rage softened beneath her touch just enough to keep him from striking. They left the estate without the confrontation exploding, but the threat lingered like poison in the air. Back in the car, Madeline broke the silence. He knows I'm the key. He made it clear. Patrick's hands tightened on the wheel. And that's exactly why I have to get you out of this. Her chest ached. Out. You mean leave you to face them alone? Yes, he said firmly, because if they hurt you, I'll never forgive myself. Her eyes filled with tears. Patrick, don't you see? That's exactly what they want. To separate us. To make me run. To break you. His jaw flexed, torn between instinct and truth. For a long moment, silence stretched heavy with everything unspoken. Then Madeline whispered, If you want to fight for Sophia, then let me fight with you. His eyes met hers raw and unguarded. He reached across the console, his fingers threading through hers, and for the first time, neither of them looked away. Later that night, Madeline sat alone in her apartment, the envelope open before her. She traced the lines of Sophia's death certificate, the red ink screaming from the page. Not an accident. She thought of the uncle's smirk, her ex-husband's threats, Patrick's anguish, and she knew whatever the cost, she couldn't let the truth stay buried. Her phone buzzed. Another message. This time, it wasn't a photo or a video. It was a single sentence. If you want answers about Sophia, meet me at St. Jude's Cemetery. Midnight. Madeline's heart pounded. The cemetery. Alone. She stared at the message torn between fear and desperation. She should tell Patrick. She should. But something inside whispered that if she did, he would stop her, and she needed to know. With trembling hands, she slipped on her coat, tucking the envelope into her bag. The night air was cold, the streets quiet as she made her way to the cemetery gates. Shadows stretched across the stone paths, moonlight glinting off marble angels. She moved carefully between the headstones, her breath visible in the air. Hello, she called softly. Is someone here? A figure stepped from the shadows. Madeline's breath caught in her throat. It wasn't her ex-husband. It wasn't Patrick's uncle. It was a woman, and when she spoke, her voice was fragile, haunting. I'm Sophia. Madeline's breath hitched, her heart slamming against her ribs. The woman in front of her looked fragile, her frame cloaked in shadows, but the voice carried the weight of truth. I'm Sophia. The name trembled in the night air, like a forbidden hymn. Madeline shook her head, backing a step away. No, that's not possible. You're... She stopped, unable to say the word. Dead. The woman's eyes, luminous even in the half-light, searched hers. I know what they told you. I know what Patrick believes. But they lied. They've always lied. The cemetery was still, except for the whisper of wind rustling through the trees. Madeline's pulse hammered so loudly, it drowned out the world. If this is some trick, if you're part of his uncle's games. I'm not the woman, interrupted, her voice raw with desperation. Please. I've risked everything to come here tonight. You have to believe me. Madeline's throat tightened. She wanted to run to escape the madness spiraling around her. Yet something in the woman's eyes, the grief, the loneliness kept her rooted. Prove it, Madeline whispered. The woman stepped closer into a sliver of moonlight, and Madeline saw it, a scar cutting along her wrist, faint, but unmistakable, the kind of mark that could only come from hospital restraints. Madeline gasped. She had seen such scars too many times in her work, patients held against their will, sedated, forgotten. "I didn't die," Sophia said softly. "They hid me." Madeline's knees weakened. She clutched the nearest headstone to steady herself. "Patrick mourned you. He blamed himself for not saving you. Why would they? Why would anyone?" Sophia's eyes darkened. "Because I knew the truth. About the money. About the research they buried under the foundation's name. I threatened to expose it, and that made me dangerous." Madeline's stomach churned. "So they silenced you. They tried. They locked me away in a private facility under another name. Only a handful of people even knew I was alive. And for years, I was nothing but a shadow. Until I escaped." The night closed in around them, the weight of the revelation pressing down like stone. Madeline swallowed hard. "Why me? Why contact me?" Sophia's voice cracked. "Because Patrick loves you. And that makes you the only person I can trust to help me reach him without my family stopping me first." Madeline's heart twisted. Patrick, his grief, his torment, every haunted word. Was it all built on a lie? Tears blurred her vision. "If what you're saying is true, you need to tell him yourself." Sophia's hand trembled as she reached forward, gripping Madeline's arm. "Not yet. He can't know I'm alive, not until I can prove everything. If he confronts them too soon, they'll destroy him." Madeline's breath caught. "And what about me? They're already circling me like vultures. Your uncle, my ex, they're all using me. I don't even know who to believe anymore." Sophia's gaze softened. "Believe this, you're stronger than you realize. And you're not alone, not anymore." A branch snapped in the distance. Both women froze. Sophia's grip tightened. "Go. Don't let them see us together. I'll find you again when it's safe." Before Madeline could argue, Sophia slipped back into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as she had come. Madeline stood trembling in the cold night, the weight of a secret that could shatter everything pressing against her chest. When she returned home, Patrick was waiting, his expression carved with worry and suspicion. "Where were you?" he demanded. Madeline's throat closed. "I needed air." His eyes narrowed. At midnight, alone. She couldn't meet his gaze. The guilt pressed heavy, but how could she tell him? How could she shatter his entire world with the truth she wasn't even sure how to carry? Patrick stepped closer, his voice rough with fear. "Madeline, if you're hiding something from me, it could cost us both. I need you to trust me." Her hands trembled. She wanted to spill everything to tell him about Sophia's scar, her voice, her plea. But Sophia's words echoed in her mind. "He can't know, not yet." So she whispered instead, "I do trust you." But the lie burned her throat like fire. The next day at the hospital, Madeline's body went through the motions, while her mind spiraled. She charted vitals, comforted children, forced smiles, but her thoughts stayed locked on Sophia's face. Alive, hidden. Her ex appeared in the lobby around noon, leaning casually against the reception desk, as if he owned the place. When their eyes met, his smirk widened. "Rough night," he taunted. Her pulse spiked. "What do you want?" He leaned closer, his voice dripping with malice. "Just to remind you, no secret stays buried forever. Not Sophia's, not yours." Madeline's blood ran cold. He knew. Before she could respond, Patrick's presence filled the lobby. His gaze landed on her ex, sharp as a blade. "Leave, now." For a tense moment, the two men locked eyes, power clashing in silence. Then her ex smirked again and strolled out, leaving poison in the air. Patrick turned to her, his jaw tight. "What did he say to you?" Madeline shook her head, words tangled in her throat. "Nothing that matters." But it did. It mattered more than anything. That evening, Patrick came to her apartment. He stood by the window looking out at the city, his reflection fractured in the glass. "They're closing in. My uncle, your ex, they're working together. And if we don't move first, they'll destroy us both." Madeline's voice trembled. "What do you mean, move first?" He turned his eyes blazing with resolve. "Expose them. All of them. Whatever it takes." Her breath caught. If she told him about Sophia now, everything could change. But Sophia's warning echoed again, "Not yet." The choice tore her apart. Patrick crossed the room, cupping her face in his hands, his voice breaking. "Madeline, I need you. Don't let them use you against me." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I don't want to lose you." "You won't," he promised. "Not while I'm still breathing." Their foreheads touched, the moment fragile, tender. For a heartbeat, the chaos outside their walls didn't exist. And then, Madeline's phone buzzed. She pulled back, her hands shaking as she opened the message. A photo appeared. It was her standing in the cemetery the night before, face pale, eyes wide. And beside her, unmistakable in the moonlight, stood Sophia. Patrick saw it over her shoulder. His entire body went rigid. "What is this?" Madeline's breath caught, panic flooding her chest. "Patrick, I can explain." But his eyes, filled with hurt and fury, locked on hers. "You knew. You knew she was alive." Patrick's voice thundered through the apartment, though he hadn't raised it. The weight of his words was louder than any shout. "You knew." Madeline froze, her phone still glowing with the damning image, her in the cemetery with Sophia by her side. "Patrick, listen," she began, but he cut her off with a shake of his head, disbelief etched across his features. "How long?" His voice cracked. "How long have you been keeping this from me?" Her throat tightened, tears burning behind her eyes. "Since last night. I only saw her once. I didn't know if it was real. I didn't know if I should believe." "You should have told me." His words were sharp, slicing through the fragile trust they had built. "I mourned her. I've lived every day of my life with her ghost tearing me apart. And you?" His voice broke. "You saw her and said nothing." Madeline's heart clenched. "She begged me not to tell you. She said it wasn't safe, that if you knew too soon, they'd destroy you." Patrick's fists clenched at his sides, trembling with contained fury. "So you trusted her more than me," her chest heaved. "I was trying to protect you." The room rang with silence after her words. Both of them stood trembling, wounded, not by enemies, but by each other. Patrick turned away, pressing his palms against the window pane, as though he needed the glass to hold him upright. His reflection stared back at him, fractured, foreign. All these years, he whispered, I believed she was gone. I built my rage, my fight, my entire life on that truth. And now you're telling me she's alive, hidden in the shadows, and I was the last to know. Madeline stepped toward him, her voice soft, pleading. Patrick, she's scared. She's been silenced, locked away. She didn't want to risk losing you again. His shoulders stiffened. Or maybe she's being used. Maybe this is another trap. And you, by keeping it from me, you've played right into their hands. The accusation cut deep, and tears spilled down Madeline's cheeks. Do you really believe I would betray you? His silence was more painful than any answer. The next day, the hospital felt colder, emptier. Madeline moved through her shift like a ghost. Her colleagues' voices muffled the children's laughter, distant. Her thoughts swirled endlessly. Patrick's hurt, Sophia's scar, the enemies closing in. By evening, Patrick appeared at the entrance, his presence impossible to ignore. He didn't speak at first, just watched her finish with a patient, his gaze unreadable. When she finally approached, her heart pounded with dread. "We need to see her," he said flatly. Madeline's breath caught. "Patrick." "No more secrets," he said, his voice rough. "Take me to Sophia." That night they returned to the cemetery. The moon hung low, casting the gravestones in eerie silver. Madeline's nerves buzzed with fear. "Are you sure she'll come?" Patrick asked, his tone clipped. "She came to me," Madeline whispered. "She'll come again." Minutes stretched into an eternity. The silence was unbearable. And then, movement. A figure stepped from the shadows. Sophia. Patrick's breath hitched, the sound ragged and raw. "No." His voice cracked. "It can't be." Sophia's eyes glistened as she whispered, "Brother." Madeline stepped back, giving them space, her heart pounding in her throat. Patrick staggered forward, his hand trembling as if afraid she would vanish if he touched her. "I buried you," he said, his voice breaking. "I stood over your grave. How are you here?" Sophia's tears fell freely. "Because the grave was a lie. They needed you to believe I was gone. It was the only way to control you." Patrick's body shook, anger and grief colliding. "All those nights I blamed myself. All those years I fought ghosts. And they let me suffer." Sophia reached for him, her fingers brushing his arm. "I'm sorry. I tried to find a way out, but they kept me hidden." Drugged, silenced. "I escaped because I knew you'd never stop fighting until you found the truth." Madeline's eyes blurred with tears. At the sight of them, two souls reunited, yet torn apart by the cruelty of those who should have loved them. But the reunion fractured quickly. Patrick pulled away, fury flashing in his eyes. "You should have come to me the moment you were free. Why hide? Why trust strangers instead of your own family?" Sophia's face crumpled. "Because you don't understand the danger. Uncle James isn't the only one. There are others, people who sit at the very top of our world. If I'd gone to you without proof, you would have been destroyed, just like they tried to destroy me." Patrick's fists clenched. "Then we expose them. Together. No more hiding." Sophia shook her head violently. "It's not that simple. They have allies in law enforcement, the press, the board. If we go too fast, we'll lose everything. And Madeline." Her eyes darted to Madeline, filled with guilt. "They'll use her until she's broken." Madeline's chest tightened. "They already are." Patrick turned toward Madeline, his expression tormented. "This is why I didn't want you in this. And now you're in deeper than either of us imagined." Madeline swallowed hard. "Then let me fight. I'm not leaving you, not either of you." The air shifted suddenly, colder, sharper. A sound cracked through the night, a snap like a twig breaking. All three froze. Patrick's instincts flared. "We're not alone." Shadows moved at the edge of the cemetery. Figures in dark clothing, too many to count, stepping silently between the graves. Sophia's face went pale. "They found me." Patrick grabbed Madeline's hand, pulling her close. His other arm shielded Sophia. "Stay behind me." The figures closed in, circling, their movements precise, coordinated. One voice broke the silence, smooth and cruel. "Well, well," it drawled. "The lost daughter returns. And look, she brought company." From the darkness stepped Patrick's uncle, his smile venomous under the moonlight. Patrick's body coiled fury, radiating from him. "You'll regret this." The uncle's eyes glinted with malice. "No, Patrick, you will." And at his signal, the men surged forward. The night air was sharp, filled with the scent of damp earth and stone. The figures closed in, their footsteps muted on the grass. Gravestones loomed like silent witnesses. Patrick pulled Madeline close, shielding her with his body while his other arm wrapped protectively around Sophia. Fury burned in his eyes as he faced his uncle. "Release her." Patrick growled, his voice low, unyielding. "You've taken enough." His uncle's smirk widened. "You misunderstand, boy. I didn't take her. I preserved her. Without me, she would have been swallowed by her own recklessness. The truth she carries is a wildfire, and if it spreads, it consumes us all." Sophia's voice trembled with rage. "You caged me. You stole years of my life to protect your empire." The uncle's gaze hardened. "I saved the family. Sacrifices must be made, and you were inconvenient." Patrick lunged forward, but Madeline caught his arm, her touch grounding him. "Don't," she whispered. "That's what he wants, your anger." The circle of men tightened. Every exit was blocked. Madeline's pulse raced, the envelope of evidence still tucked inside her bag, like a ticking bomb. She realized then they weren't here to kill. They were here to take. Her ex-husband's voice rang out from the shadows. "Step aside, Maddie. Hand it over, and this ends tonight." Her chest tightened. The envelope. That's what they wanted. Patrick's head snapped toward her. His eyes widened with realization. "You have it." Madeline's breath caught. She hadn't told him she'd kept the documents with her. I couldn't leave it behind. It's the only proof." His face shifted, fear, admiration, anger, all colliding. "Madeline." Her ex stepped closer, his grin cruel, always so predictable. "You cling to scraps of paper like they'll save you, but the only thing they'll do is get you killed." Sophia's voice rang out sharp as glass. "Then let it be me. If you want what's mine, take me, but leave them." "No." Patrick's voice cracked like thunder. "You're not bargaining with them. Not anymore." The uncle raised a hand, silencing his men. His eyes glittered with menace. "Let's not turn this into a spectacle. Hand over the evidence and you all walk away. Refuse and..." Well, accidents happen in cemeteries all the time. Madeline's hands trembled as she clutched her bag. Fear screamed at her to surrender. But something stronger rose inside her, a defiance she hadn't known she possessed. "No," she said, her voice shaking but clear. "We won't be silent anymore. Not about Sophia. Not about what you've done." The men shifted uneasily. Patrick's uncle's smile faltered, if only for a heartbeat. Patrick stepped closer to Madeline, his hand brushing hers, steadying her trembling fingers. "If we burn," he whispered, "we burn together." The words shattered something inside her. Fear, doubt, the weight of years of silence. For the first time, she felt like an equal in the battle, not a pawn. Then chaos erupted. One of the men lunged forward, reaching for the bag. Patrick struck with brutal precision, his fist connecting the man collapsing onto the grass. Another charged, and Sophia, with a sudden burst of fury, swung a fallen branch, catching him across the shoulder. Madeline ducked, clutching the bag to her chest, as a third man grabbed at her arm. She screamed, kicking wildly, until Patrick tore him away, slamming him against a headstone. The night filled with shouts, grunts, the crack of fists meeting flesh. The circle dissolved into chaos, shadows colliding under the pale moon. Madeline stumbled backward, her breath ragged, the bag still clutched in her arms. She tripped against a gravestone, falling to her knees. And then, suddenly, silence. Patrick's uncle stood only a few feet away, untouched, his men retreating slightly, as though under command. His gaze fell to Madeline, and for the first time, his voice softened, not with kindness, but with poison. "You don't belong in this war, child. You think love will save you. Love is what we exploit. Love is what makes people weak." Her chest heaved. You're wrong. Love is the only reason we're still standing. His smile was thin, cold. Then watch how easily it breaks. He snapped his fingers. From the shadows, another figure emerged. Madeline's heart stopped. It was one of her colleagues from the hospital. A nurse she had trusted, laughed with, leaned on during long shifts. Her colleague's face was pale, her eyes downcast with shame. And in her trembling hands was another envelope, identical to the one Madeline carried. The uncle's smirk deepened. Did you really think you were the only one keeping records? You've been dancing on strings, my dear. Every move, every secret already in my grasp. Madeline's stomach twisted. Betrayal burned like acid in her veins. No. Patrick's fury exploded. You planted spies, even in her life, her work. The uncle's voice was calm, chilling. Of course, she was the key. And keys are only useful if you know where they fit. Sophia stepped forward, tears streaking her cheeks. You've taken everything from us, but you can't take him, not anymore. The uncle's gaze hardened. Haven't you learned everything has a price? Even your miraculous return. At that moment, headlights flared at the edge of the cemetery. A car screeched to a halt, tires grinding against gravel. Doors slammed, and more figures rushed forward, not men in black, but uniformed officers. For a fleeting second, hope surged in Madeline's chest, until she saw whose badge gleamed under the lights. It wasn't the police. It was private security, bearing the emblem of Scott International. Patrick froze his face, draining of color. No, they're not here for him. They're here for me. The circle closed again, tighter this time, the weight of betrayal pressing from all sides. Madeline clutched the bag, her voice breaking. Patrick, what do we do? He turned to her, his eyes blazing with a mix of fury and heartbreak. We run. But before they could move, one of the guards stepped forward, his weapon raised. His words chilled the air. Patrick Scott, you are under detainment by order of your own board of directors. The cemetery lights flared against the dark shadows, stretching as the security guards closed in around Patrick. Their uniforms bore the golden insignia of Scott International gleaming like cruel reminders that the empire he had once controlled was no longer his to command. Patrick Scott, the lead guard, barked by order of the board of directors. You are to come with us immediately. Patrick stood tall, though rage rippled through him. So this is how far they've gone, he muttered. My own blood, my own company turning me into the enemy. Madeline gripped his arm. You can't go with them. You know it's a trap. His eyes met hers, filled with fire, but also something gentler, something breaking. If I resist, they'll hurt you. Both of you. His gaze flicked toward Sophia, who stood trembling, but defiant. No, Sophia whispered, stepping forward. They want control, not justice. If you walk away with them, they'll bury you, like they buried me. The uncle's voice sliced through the night, calm and venomous. Enough of this melodrama. Patrick, you've lost. You've clung to grief, to sentiment, to illusions of family. But this, he gestured at the guards at the circle tightening around them. This is reality. Power. And power does not bend for love. Patrick's fists clenched, his entire body trembling. Power without love is nothing but rot. The uncle's smirk only deepened, spoken like a man about to be erased. Two guards stepped forward, metal restraints glinting in the moonlight. Madeline instinctively moved in front of Patrick, her body a shield, though she knew it was useless. Stop, she cried. If you take him, you'll have to go through me. The uncle's laugh echoed across the graves. You think your devotion matters? You're just a convenience, a weakness we exploited, nothing more. Madeline's vision blurred with tears, but her voice did not falter. You're wrong. You see weakness, but I see strength, the kind you'll never understand. For the first time, the uncle's expression flickered, unsettled by her defiance. Patrick reached out his hand, cupping Madeline's cheek, his voice breaking. Don't waste yourself on me. If I fall, you must survive. Promise me, Madeline. Promise me you'll live. Her tears spilled freely. I can't promise that, because living without you isn't living at all. The raw honesty between them silenced even the guards for a heartbeat. Then Sophia's voice cut through, sharp, urgent. Wait. If you take him, then you'll have to take me too. All eyes turned to her. Her face was pale, her hands trembling, but her voice carried a force that stilled the night. The uncle's jaw tightened. You should have stayed in your grave. Sophia stepped closer, her eyes blazing. You wanted me gone because I knew the truth. But now I have something you didn't count on, proof that stretches beyond this family, beyond this company. And if you harm Patrick, it will all be released. The uncle's face darkened. You're bluffing. Sophia lifted her chin. Try me. Patrick's eyes widened in shock. Sophia. What proof? Her gaze softened as she looked at him. The research I uncovered before they silenced me. I hid copies outside their reach. Documents, names, accounts. Enough to burn the empire down if it ever saw daylight. Gasps rippled through the circle of guards. Even the uncle's confidence faltered. You wouldn't dare, he hissed. Sophia's voice broke, but her resolve did not. I would, because you took everything from me, and I won't let you take him too. The tension thickened, a fragile balance of fear and fury. The guards hesitated, waiting for orders. Patrick's uncle's face twisted with rage, veins throbbing at his temples. You think you've won, he spat. This ends one way and one way only, with your silence. He raised his hand to signal the guards forward. But before he could lower it, a sharp siren wailed in the distance. Blue and red lights sliced through the night as real police cars barreled down the cemetery path. Madeline's breath caught. Relief and terror collided inside her. The uncle's face drained of color. No. Patrick turned to Sophia, realization dawning. You called them. Sophia's eyes shimmered with tears. I couldn't keep running. Not anymore. If this ends tonight, let it end with truth. The guards shifted, panic, breaking their discipline. The circle fractured. The uncle snarled, his voice venomous. You've doomed us all, girl. Sophia's reply was quiet, steady. No, I've saved us. The police cars screeched to a halt, officers spilling out, guns drawn. The guards scattered like shadows, melting into the night. The uncle stood rigid, his mask of power cracking for the first time. An officer barked commands, advancing with practiced precision. Hands where we can see them. Now Madeline clutched Patrick's hand, trembling as adrenaline surged. It's over, she whispered. But Patrick's eyes never left his uncle. No, he murmured. It's only beginning. As the officers closed in, the uncle suddenly turned, his voice cutting like a knife. Do you think this saves you? Do you think the world will believe her? A girl who was supposed to be dead. A grieving nephew clinging to fantasy. They'll paint you as liars, delusional. And when the dust settles, the empire will still be mine. Patrick lunged forward, fury radiating from him, but Madeline's grip held him back. Don't. He wants you to break. Sophia stepped forward instead, her voice trembling but clear. Maybe they won't believe us. Maybe they'll bury the story. But even if the world doubts, we know. And that truth will eat you alive, Uncle. Every boardroom, every mirror, every night you close your eyes, you'll see us standing here. The uncle's face contorted with rage, but for the first time he had no words. Patrick turned to Madeline, his expression torn between triumph and despair. If she's telling the truth about the documents, then everything changes. Everything. Madeline's voice cracked. And if she's not? His eyes softened raw with emotion. Then we fall together. Tears blurred her vision, but she nodded her hand, gripping his tighter. Then let's fall. The police led the uncle away, his shouts echoing into the night. The guards had vanished, but the silence that followed was heavier than any battle. Sophia sank to her knees, sobbing with exhaustion. Patrick rushed to her side, cradling her, as if afraid she might disappear again. Madeline stood close, her hand resting on his shoulder, anchoring them both. For a moment, it felt as though love and truth had won. Until another officer approached, his expression grim. "Mr. Scott, you'll need to come with us too. There are warrants, embezzlement, obstruction allegations tied directly to your name." Patrick froze. "What?" Madeline's heart lurched. "No, that's impossible. He's the victim, not the criminal." The officer's eyes held sympathy, but no mercy. "I'm sorry, but the charges are already filed. Someone made sure of it." Sophia's face went pale. "The board." Patrick straightened his hand, still gripping Madeline's, his eyes locked on hers. "Whatever happens next, don't let go. Promise me." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Never." The officers stepped closer, cuffs gleaming under the harsh lights. And as Patrick was led away, Sophia whispered words that froze Madeline's blood. "They'll never let him walk free, unless I give them what I hid." The sound of the cell door slamming shut reverberated through Patrick's mind like a death knell. The steel bars, the stale air, the flickering light overhead, it all felt unreal, like he had stepped into a nightmare designed to strip him of his identity. Hours earlier, he had been a man clinging to truth and love. Now, he was nothing more than a prisoner of his own empire. Patrick sat on the narrow cot, hands clasped tightly, his jaw rigid. The image of Madeline's tear-streaked face haunted him. "Don't let go," she had whispered, and he hadn't. Not when the cuffs bit into his wrists, not when the officers dragged him away, not even now. Because if he let go of her, he would let go of himself. Meanwhile, Madeline sat in her apartment, the silence suffocating. She replayed every second of the night, every word of the uncle's venom, every flicker of pain in Patrick's eyes as he was taken. She pressed her hands against her face, trying to block it all out, but the weight of it only grew heavier. Across from her, Sophia sat curled in the armchair, staring at her trembling hands. The strength she had shown at the cemetery had evaporated, replaced by exhaustion and guilt. "They'll destroy him," Sophia whispered. "Just like they tried to destroy me." Madeline lifted her head, her voice breaking. "Then we can't let them. We have to fight back." Sophia shook her head. "You don't understand. The board isn't the only enemy. My uncle is ruthless, yes, but there are investors, powerful men, who benefit from his control. If they think Patrick might uncover their secrets, they'll ensure he never walks free again." Madeline's heart pounded. "Then we expose them. We show the world the documents you hid." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "If I do that, they'll come for me, for you, for anyone who stands beside us. They won't stop until we're erased." Madeline leaned forward, her voice steady despite her fear. "Then let them come. I'd rather die fighting than live knowing I stayed silent while Patrick rotted in a cell." For the first time, Sophia's eyes softened with admiration and sorrow. You love him, she said quietly. Madeline's throat tightened. Yes, with everything I have. Sophia nodded, a small pained smile tugging at her lips. Then maybe that's the only weapon strong enough to save him. The next morning, Madeline tried to see Patrick, but she was turned away at the detention center. He's under federal hold, the officer said coldly. No visitors without clearance. Her chest ached as she walked away, the world blurring through her tears. Outside, Sophia was waiting in the car. They won't let me in. Madeline choked. Sophia clenched the steering wheel. Then we need another way. If they've turned the system against him, we can't fight inside the rules. We need to go above them. Above, Madeline asked, confused. Sophia's expression darkened. The files I hid, they don't just prove financial fraud. They tie members of the board to an international syndicate. Money laundering, illegal trials, names that can't be touched in court, but could topple them in the public eye. Madeline's stomach dropped. Then why haven't you used them already? Because once I do, there's no going back. I'll be hunted, and anyone close to me. Sophia's gaze flicked to Madeline, heavy with unspoken warning. Madeline exhaled shakily. Then, let me carry them. Let them come after me if they want. I won't let you bear this alone. Sophia looked at her for a long time, then nodded slowly. If we do this, there's something you need to see. That night, Sophia led Madeline to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The air smelled of rust and dust, the floor littered with broken glass. In the corner, hidden behind crates, Sophia pulled out a weathered lockbox. Her hands shook as she unlocked it, revealing stacks of files, photographs, and flash drives. Madeline's eyes widened. This is enough to bring down an empire. Sophia's voice cracked. It's also enough to get us killed. Madeline picked up one of the files, flipping through images of medical charts, signatures, bank transfers. Her blood ran cold. They experimented on children. Sophia's lips trembled. Yes, trials that were never approved. They funneled foundation money into labs overseas. I found out. That's why they buried me. Madeline's stomach churned, rage burning through her veins. We have to show this to Patrick. He needs to know the truth. Sophia's hand clamped on hers. No. If he knows, he'll try to fight them head on, and they'll crush him. He needs to believe he's powerless for now, until we can strike from the outside. Madeline shook her head, torn between truth and protection. Keeping him in the dark will destroy what little trust he has left in me. Sophia's voice softened. If you love him, you'll carry this burden so he doesn't have to. Suddenly, footsteps echoed through the warehouse. Both women froze. A beam of light sliced across the room. Thought you'd be here, a familiar voice sneered. Madeline's ex-husband stepped from the shadows, flanked by two men. His grin was poisonous. You really should have changed the locks, Sophia. Some ghosts don't stay buried. Sophia's face drained of color. You're working for them. He smirked. Working numb. Partnering. Your uncle doesn't like to get his hands dirty. That's where I come in. Madeline's fists clenched. You're disgusting. You'd sell anyone for power. He leaned closer, his eyes glinting. Not anyone. Just you. Over and over again. Madeline's stomach turned, but before she could speak, one of the men snatched the lockbox. No! Sophia cried, lunging forward, but the man shoved her back. Madeline's pulse roared in her ears. Please, don't do this. Patrick is innocent. This will destroy him. Her ex tilted his head. That's the point. Without him, the board controls everything. And me, I get rewarded handsomely for helping. Madeline's chest heaved with fury. You won't get away with this. He chuckled darkly. Oh, sweetheart, I already have. As the men turned to leave, Sophia grabbed Madeline's hand, whispering fiercely. There's another copy. Hidden. They don't know. But if they think they have it all, we still have a chance. Madeline's eyes widened. Where? Sophia's voice trembled. I'll tell you, but not here. Not now. Her ex glanced back, suspicion flickering in his eyes. What are you two whispering about? Madeline forced herself to meet his gaze, summoning every ounce of defiance. About how this ends. And trust me, it won't end the way you think. His smile faltered, but only slightly, before he disappeared into the shadows with the lockbox. When the warehouse fell silent again, Sophia collapsed to the floor, her shoulders shaking. Madeline knelt beside her, gripping her hands. We're not finished. Not yet. Tell me where the other copy is. We'll get it, and we'll bring them all down. Sophia's eyes lifted, filled with sorrow and resolve. I'll take you there. But once we have it, you'll have to make a choice, save Patrick, or save the children still trapped in their system. Because we won't have the power to do both. Madeline's blood ran cold. That's not a choice. Sophia's tears spilled. It's the only one. The rain fell in sheets that night, pounding against the windshield of Sophia's borrowed car. Madeline sat in the passenger seat, her fingers clutching the dashboard as though bracing for impact. The city blurred by a storm of neon lights and shadows. Sophia's voice was steady, but her eyes were glassy. The last copy is hidden where no one would ever think to look. But once we retrieve it, the clock starts ticking. They'll know, and they'll hunt us until one of us falls. Madeline swallowed hard. Then we make it count. We use it to free Patrick. We end this. Sophia's hands tightened on the wheel. No, Madeline. You don't understand. With these files, we can do one of two things. Save Patrick or save the children still being used in their trials overseas. The resources, the evidence, it won't stretch both ways. It's one or the other. The words cut through Madeline like lightning. That's not a choice, she whispered, her chest heaving. I can't sacrifice him, and I can't sacrifice them either. Sophia's gaze flicked toward her, haunted. That's the cost of war. Every victory leaves blood behind. They pulled into the back of an old cathedral. Its stained glass windows shattered, its doors sagging on rusted hinges. Sophia led Madeline inside, their footsteps echoing through the hollow nave. Behind the altar, hidden beneath cracked marble, Sophia pried up a stone slab and revealed a small metal box. Her hands trembled as she lifted it out. This is it, she whispered. The proof. Bank accounts, signed approvals, images of the trials, names so powerful they'll collapse governments if they fall. Madeline's heart pounded. She reached for the box, but Sophia pulled it back. Once you touch this, your life is no longer your own. Do you understand? Madeline's voice was fierce, unwavering. My life stopped being mine the moment they took him. Sophia searched her face for a long moment, then slowly placed the box in her hands. The weight was heavier than Madeline expected. Not just metal, but the weight of lives, of truth, of love. Before they could move, the cathedral doors slammed open. Madeline's ex strode in, rain dripping from his coat, a gun glinting in his hand. Behind him came two of the uncle's men. Faces, cold eyes, merciless. Well, he drawled, isn't this poetic? Two saints in a church holding the gospel that could damn us all. Madeline's stomach twisted. She clutched the box tighter, her pulse roaring in her ears. You're too late. He smirked. On the contrary, you're exactly on time. Sophia stepped forward, her voice trembling but defiant. You'll never get this. I'd rather die than hand it over. Her ex tilted his head, his smile cruel. Then let's test that theory. He raised the gun, aimed directly at Madeline. Patrick's name tore from her lips in a broken whisper. But before the shot rang out, Sophia hurled herself in front of Madeline, her scream echoing through the cathedral. The gun fired. The sound exploded through the hollow chamber. Sophia collapsed into Madeline's arms, her blood warm and bright against the cold stone floor. "No," Madeline cried, clutching her. "Stay with me. Please, stay." Sophia's breath came shallow, her voice barely a whisper. "Take it. To him. Don't waste it on me. Save Patrick. Or save them. You must choose." Madeline's tears blurred the world. "I can't. Don't make me." Sophia's trembling hand pressed against hers, guiding the box back into her arms. Her eyes filled with pain and love met Madeline's one last time. "You can, because you already know the answer." Her hand fell limp, her eyes closed. Madeline's scream shattered the silence. The men moved forward, but at that moment, sirens wailed outside. Blue and red lights flared through the broken stained glass. Real officers this time, federal agents storming the cathedral shouting commands. Madeline's ex cursed, retreating into the shadows with his men, leaving chaos and echoes behind. Agents swarmed the nave, guns, drawn voices urgent. One of them reached for Madeline. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" She shook her head, her tears still falling, her arms wrapped tightly around Sophia's lifeless body. "No, but she is." They tried to pull her away, but Madeline clutched Sophia tighter. "She died for this," she whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. "And I won't let it be for nothing." Her eyes dropped to the box in her hands. The choice it demanded was heavier now than ever. Free Patrick or save the children. She knew what Sophia believed. She knew what Patrick would choose if he could speak. But her heart screamed for him, for the man who had risked everything to protect her. An agent crouched beside her, his voice firm. "Whatever's in that box, it can change everything. Tell us where to take it." Madeline's hands trembled, the metal biting into her palms. Her tears fell onto the box, mixing with Sophia's blood. For a long moment, the world held its breath. Then Madeline lifted her head, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "I know exactly where it belongs." The agents pulled her to her feet, guiding her out of the cathedral. Rain poured down, washing away the blood, but not the choice still burning in her chest. As she stepped into the storm, Madeline looked toward the detention center's distant silhouette. Patrick's face filled her mind, his broken voice, his fierce promises, his love that had anchored her through the darkest nights. And then, in her heart, the echoes of Sophia's last words. "Save Patrick, or save them." Madeline clutched the box tighter, her decision unspoken, but inevitable. Whichever path she chose, someone would pay the price. The rain had not stopped since that night in the cathedral. It seemed as though the sky itself mourned Sophia's sacrifice. Madeline sat in the back seat of the federal car, the lockbox heavy on her lap. Its cold metal pressed against her trembling hands, whispering of the power it held. The power to save Patrick or the children, but not both. Beside her, an agent scrolled through his phone, unmoved by her silent storm. "You'll have to decide quickly," he said without looking up. "The Bureau can file charges to clear Patrick, or we can open an international investigation into the trials. But we don't have the resources for both." His words carved into her chest. Choose. Always choose. She turned her face to the window, the city lights blurring through the rain. Patrick's voice echoed in her mind. "Don't let go." And Sophia's fading whisper clung to her heart. "Save Patrick, or save them." Madeline closed her eyes. How can I sacrifice one for the other? The next morning, she finally convinced the Bureau to grant her a supervised visit. They led her through cold corridors, past steel doors that clanged shut behind her, until she reached the visitation room. Patrick was already there, seated at a metal table, his hands cuffed before him. He looked exhausted shadows beneath his eyes, but when he saw her, something softened in his face. "Madeline," he whispered, as though her name alone was a lifeline. She rushed to him, the guards holding her back until she sat. Their eyes locked silence, stretching between them, heavy with everything they hadn't said. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears spilling. "I should have told you about Sophia sooner. I should have." He shook his head. "Don't. You did what you thought would protect me. And in the end, you brought her back, even if it cost us everything. That's more than I could have hoped." Her throat tightened. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. "She's gone, Patrick. She died saving me. And now, everything rests in my hands. The file's the proof. It can free you, or it can end the trials. But it can't do both." His jaw clenched, his eyes burning. "Then you already know what you must do." Madeline shook her head violently. "Don't say it. You save the children," he said firmly. "You save them, Madeline. Don't waste Sophia's sacrifice on me." Her tears fell faster. "But I can't lose you. I won't survive it." He leaned forward, his voice raw. "If you love me, you'll let me fall so they can rise. Love isn't about clinging, it's about giving. Promise me you'll do this." Her chest ached as though it were breaking apart. "Don't ask me to choose between you and them." Patrick's lips trembled, his composure shattering. "Because I'd choose you every time, and that's exactly why you can't." The guards ended the visit too soon, dragging him away, despite Madeline's cries. She pressed her hand against the glass as he disappeared down the corridor, her body shaking with grief. When she stepped outside, Sophia's voice haunted her again. "You already know the answer." But what if the answer was wrong? That night, Madeline returned to her apartment. The lockbox sat on her table, its weight pulling her down like an anchor. She poured herself a glass of water, her hands trembling so badly it spilled. A knock rattled the door. Her heart lurched. She hadn't been expecting anyone. Slowly she approached, peering through the peephole. Her ex-husband stood there, rain dripping from his hair, his smile thin and sharp. "Miss me," he drawled. Panic flared in her chest. She backed away, but the door burst open, his men forcing their way in. He stepped inside casually, as though he owned the place. "Still holding on to the box, I see," he said, eyeing it on the table. "You really don't learn, do you, Maddie?" She tried to reach for it, but one of the men pinned her arms. She thrashed, her voice breaking. "Let me go." Her ex picked up the box, weighing it in his hands. "Funny, isn't it? All this trouble over scraps of paper and hard drives. But with this, I control everything your lover rots in his cell. The board stays untouchable, and you—" He leaned close, his breath hot against her ear. "You'll finally understand what it means to lose." Madeline spat at him, rage burning through her fear. "You'll never win, not while I'm breathing." His smile only widened. "Then maybe I should fix that." He raised his gun. Before he could fire, glass shattered. A figure crashed through the window, tackling one of the men to the ground. Another figure followed, cloaked in black, moving with trained precision. Chaos erupted. Shouts, fists, the crack of wood against bone. Madeline ducked as the fight tore through her apartment. Her ex cursed, stumbling back, the box still clutched in his hands. Who the hell? The intruder's mask slipped, revealing a woman's face beneath. Sharp eyes, a scar along her jaw, authority radiating from every movement. "Drop it," she commanded, her voice like steel, "or you'll leave here in a body bag." Her ex hesitated, then bolted for the door. The woman's partner chased him, but he vanished into the storm. Madeline collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. The masked woman knelt beside her, steadying her. "You're safe for now," she said. Madeline's eyes darted to the box, still lying on the floor. "Who are you?" The woman's gaze hardened. "A friend of Sophia's. She didn't tell you everything." Madeline's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "She wasn't just uncovering corruption," the woman said. "She was part of something bigger, a network. And now with her gone, you're the only one left to finish what she started." Madeline's pulse roared in her ears. Finish what? The woman's eyes locked onto hers, filled with urgency and warning. Bring down the entire syndicate. But to do it, you'll have to let Patrick go. Madeline's breath caught. "No, I can't. You must." The woman pressed. "Because if you save him, they win. And if you save them, he's lost. The choice is yours, but you don't have much time." Thunder shook the sky, lightning flashing through the broken window. Madeline's hands trembled as she picked up the box, her reflection staring back at her in the polished steel. 2 paths, 1 heart, 1,000 lives. Her tears fell onto the box as she whispered to the storm. "How do I choose?" The storm had not let up for days, as if the heavens themselves refused to grant peace. Madeline sat alone in her apartment, the shattered window covered with a makeshift board, the lockbox resting on the table like a silent judge. Every time she looked at it, her chest ached with the weight of its demand. Save Patrick, or save the children. 2 paths, only one future. Her fingers brushed the cold steel, her reflection fractured on its surface. She could still feel Patrick's hand in hers, his voice echoing, "If you love me, let me fall so they can rise." And Sophia's final whisper haunted her dreams. "You already know the answer." But how could she live with either choice? That morning, the bureau called. "Ms. Young," the agent said crisply, "we need your decision. Do we move forward with charges to clear Mr. Scott, or do we open the international investigation?" "The files can't serve both purposes." Madeline's throat tightened. "And if I refuse to choose," a pause. Then both cases collapse, and everyone loses." The line went dead. Madeline sank to the floor, clutching the box to her chest. Her tears spilled freely, but beneath them something sharper stirred resolve. If the world demanded she choose, then she would choose on her terms. That evening she requested another visit with Patrick. The bureau hesitated, but finally allowed it under watch. When she entered the visitation room, Patrick's eyes lit with the same fierce devotion that had carried her through every storm. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered, his voice low but tender. "It's dangerous for you." Madeline sat across from him, her hands trembling. Dangerous stopped mattering the moment they took you. "Patrick, I can end this, but not both ways. If I free you, the children stay trapped. If I save them, you may never walk free again." His jaw tightened, pain flickering in his gaze. "Then save them. You know that's what Sophia died for, what I would die for." Her tears blurred her vision. "But what about us?" He reached across the table, his cuffed hands barely brushing hers. "Love isn't always about happy endings. Sometimes it's about giving more than you ever thought you could. If my fall means they rise, then my life still has meaning." Her chest cracked with grief. "I can't let them take you from me." He gave her a sad, aching smile. "You already did. The day you chose to love me, you chose a war bigger than us both." The guards ended the visit before she could answer, dragging him away once more. She pressed her hand to the glass, her voice breaking. "I love you, Patrick. Always." He turned once, his eyes burning into hers. "Then love them too. Enough to save them." That night, Madeline stood at the Bureau's headquarters, the box in her hands. The director stared at her expectantly. "Well," he asked, "what's your decision?" Madeline's heart thundered. She closed her eyes, whispering to Sophia, to Patrick, to the storm inside her. And when she opened them, her voice was steady. "Open the international investigation." The director blinked. "You're certain?" Her tears slipped down her cheeks. "No, but it's the only way I can live with myself." The files were taken from her trembling hands. Within hours, reports spread across the world, leaked documents exposing illegal trials, corruption, names of powerful men. Governments reeled, protests erupted, the syndicate's foundations cracked beneath the weight of truth. But Patrick remained in his cell. Days passed. Madeline walked the city streets, hearing strangers whisper about the scandal, about justice finally breaking through the darkness. Children's faces appeared on the news, rescued free. She smiled through her tears. "Sophia, we did it." But every night her dreams carried her back to Patrick's eyes, his hand slipping from hers. One evening, as she sat alone by her window, a letter arrived. No name, no return address. Just her name written in Patrick's handwriting. Her hands shook as she tore it open. "Madeline, if you're reading this, it means you chose what I prayed you would. You saved them. I knew you would. Don't grieve for me. My love for you lives beyond these walls. Hold on to it, because one day, even cages break. And when they do, I'll find my way back to you. Always yours, Patrick." Her tears soaked the page. She pressed it to her heart, whispering into the night, "Come back to me." Months later, the world was still burning, with the fallout of the revelations. The syndicate had fractured, many arrested, others vanished into the shadows. The Scott empire tottered, but did not fall. Madeline continued her work at the hospital, pouring her love into the children who had been freed, healing them with the same devotion she had once given only to Patrick. Each smile, each laugh was a piece of him she carried forward. But late at night, when the world was quiet, she would sit with his letter, reading it until the words blurred, and whisper to the stars, "I'm waiting." And somewhere in a cold cell under watchful eyes, Patrick whispered back, "Hold on, Madeline. I'm coming home." The storm had passed, but the war was not over. Their love had survived betrayal, sacrifice, and loss. And though the world demanded choices, one truth remained unshaken: they had not let go. The story closes with Madeline choosing justice over personal love, freeing the children, but leaving Patrick imprisoned. A bittersweet ending filled with sacrifice, love, and hope, yet open enough for a new arc to one day reunite them.